Hello everyone, I am Yashvi Sharma from Department of Humanities at the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. In today's module, we are going to understand about the principles of organization, where we will talk about the two main principles, that is principle of hierarchy and span of control. Now, coming upon to the principle of organization, first let us understand that what do we mean by principle of organization and why they are needed in an organization. For any organization to run effectively and efficiently, one of the basic things they require is the foundation of rules and regulation, because no organization can survive without these principles of organization. They are quite essential for any organization to run very smooth and efficiently. In this image, we will see that there is three levels of management, where we can see that there is one top level management, a middle level management and a lower level management. What do we mean by that? It means that each and every organization have divided its responsibility to its various employees, and the authority is being derived from only one person, who is either the head of the organization or the manager of that team. So now let us understand that what do we mean by hierarchy and why this principle is being required. Principle of hierarchy. The literal meaning of this word hierarchy is either grading or ranking system. When any organization is being built on, it is being divided into various department like marketing, HR, finance, many other aspects. Similarly, any organization, either be it government organization or be it private organization, each and every organization run by this principle, which is called as hierarchy, because grading and ranking system is considered to be as one of the most prominent system that can effectively distribute the responsibilities among the various employees. Now, when we look upon to this principle of hierarchy, it basically leads to the social stratification, which means the responsibility is going to stratifically being divided between the various employees, and it is not necessary that the responsibility will be divided only with the individuals. It can also be divided in the groups in a society. So therefore, this principle of hierarchy is being divided depending upon to how that organization is working. Here we can see that employee report directly to their supervisor. Now here we need to understand that when any information is being transferred from the upper level management to the lower level management, it is always being considered to as command. That means an authority and a person who is in the authority, they are always going to command. Now the question arises, when that employee who revert back that command again to that head of the department or head of their institute, what it is being called? It is being called as reporting. So always understand the hierarchy runs by the two major important words, that is the command and report from the employee. The next most important feature that we are going to learn here is that what are the characteristic feature of this hierarchical structure. First is the clear line of authority. Now, when I talk about this clear line of authority, here we mean that each and every individual is well defined by their roles. Means a person who is engaged in the work of marketing, they are not going to look after the HR work. The person who has been employed for the reporting, they are not going to work under the HR. So in that way, we can say that each and every person have a very stratified role, which is very clear, and therefore the authority is being very cleared over here, and the higher authority clears the line of reporting and decision making. Next is centralized decision making. Now, the power of decision making always remains in the one hand. Now, imagine when you as an employee get an order from 2 to 3 boss of yours, it is very difficult for you to manage that whose decision you need to keep as priority. So therefore, to sort it down, it has been always said that there should be always a centralized decision making. That means there should be a single authority who should delegate its authority at various levels. But if I talk about the 100% authority by one head, then it can be divided into 50-50, then 50 to 30%. In this way, the authority needs to be delegated with its responsibilities. Next character is specialization and functional expertise. Now, as first hand only, I have told you about that each and every individual have been employed with this specific role. Like for instance, about this institute only, if any teacher has been appointed for public administration, another teacher has been appointed for history, there would be no change in their work. The person who is being employed to teach history, they will only teach history, not public administration or political science. So hence we can conclude over here that a functional expertise is being gained when there is a hierarchical level of principle being obtained by any organization. It promotes the specialization, employ focus on specific task or function. So hence here we can say that it's the another basic characteristic of hierarchy. Gangplank in scalar chain. Now imagine if any authority works in this manner where A is the head of an organization, B, C, D works under them, E, F, G also works under them. Now in an organization, the hierarchy principle says that any information should be traveled through a proper channel. That means a proper channel needed to be managed. That means A is going to transfer information to B, B to C, C to D. Then if D wants to give its information to G, then D is going to report to C, then C is going to report to B, B to A, and in that way the G will gain the information. So what here we can see that it is quite it's quite tiring process, because it's going to lead the work, it is going to delay the work process, where the information that can be transferred directly from D to G, it will transfer from D, C, B, A, E, F and then to G. So therefore, to avoid this sort of confusion, Henry Fayol has came up to the best of the most solution which can be used over here. That is known as the gangplank, or it is also been known as jumping method. It is also been known as jumping method. Now here it has been said that if in any way C wants to give its information to F, they can directly give its information to the F. There is no requirement of going either to B, then to X and then to F. They can directly talk, C can directly convey its message to the F, but only in one condition: when B and E are in well known contact, that yes, the C have transferred its information directly to the F. A straight line arrangement can be done between the 2 points, which is going to swiftly make the communication, but it can be only done in one condition. And what condition is that? It is that B and E should be well known about the fact that C is transferring this information to the F. Advantages of the hierarchical structure. The first advantage is the clear line of authority. As we all know that this hierarchical structure establishes a clear reporting relationship and decision making process. I told you earlier that when any command is being raised by an authority, an employee knows that who he needs to follow. And here when an employee gains its command, he or she knows that whom they need to report. So there is very clear line of authority and responsibility in this principle of hierarchy. Second is the specialization and efficiency. That has also been talked earlier, that each and every employee become efficient in their work when it's very obvious when any individual they are going to work one single they are going to do the one single task each and every day. They are going to become much and more efficient rather than doing 3 to 4 tasks, switching on to their job roles, which is going to make the work process more tireless. Third is stability and predictability. Now when we talk about over here is that it is very predictable. Now see, today I am working in a sales department. Next day I have given a job to make a report. Third day I get a job to do a videographing. Will it be possible for any employee to be very efficient to 3 to 4 tasks? It's impossible. Therefore, it has been said that by this principle of hierarchy, it's very stable in its approach. Each and every employee, it's well known about their framework, about their job roles and their process of giving their response from them to their authority. Next is the scalability and growth. Now, when I talk about growth, each and every department have their different growth and there would be additional layers being added. Next, we come to the disadvantage of hierarchical structure. The first disadvantage is it slows the decision making. Until and unless Henry Fayol have not given the solution of gangplank, or I can say that the solution which is considered to be as level jumping, we could understand that how much tirelessly a C have to give its information to the F. You might be remember how the C have to give information from here to here. It will going to make the work process more tiring. So therefore, the principle of hierarchy is actually a slow decision making process until and unless a permission is not been given by their prior authorities to C and F to transfer their information. Second is limited flexibility. Here we can see that when there is one unity of command, or we can say hierarchies are rigid, so there we can see that no change is being required, no change can be accepted, because if any change would be there, it is going to hamper the whole work environment culture of that organization. So for here it can say that it gives a very limited flexibility. An authority I would say the individual who is at that authoritative position, he might not be that well good with the technologies, but might be possible any employee who have recently joined, they are well good with the technologies. So in this way we can say that there is a very limited flexibility in the principle of hierarchy. Third is the communication barrier. Yes, it's a very basic disadvantage in the principle of hierarchy, because each and every individual have to follow by one command. Now, when any chain of command is being transferred from upper level management to the lower level management, there is high chances that there is a middle level management and they could hamper the information. So therefore, it's not necessary the total correct information is going to be transferred from upper level to the lower level. Next is the stifled creativity. Now, a strict hierarchy leads to now we can see that when there is a strict hierarchical rules, they are not going to accept the change. The authoritative position leaders are not going to change, they are not going to accept the change, and therefore their risk taking factor becomes zero. And as we all know that today's youth, today employee feel they require a different zonal area to give their ideas a different growth. So therefore, an employee should always feel heard and valued, which is quite less in this principle of hierarchy. Now we'll come to the next principle, that is span of control. Now by this word span of control, it basically means the number of subordinates or a manager who can supervise effectively. Now how one manager can control its subordinates. In this principle of organization, it dictates that how many employees can work under one authoritative leader. It means the span of control. Span means time. That means how many employees can be controlled at one single time. Factors influencing this span of control. First is the team size. If any individual who is at the authoritative position, he is having only the capability to run a team of 4 to 5 people. But now an organization takes a decision and add 10 to 15 people more under one authoritative leader. So in that case, would they able to tackle their team size? Impossible. So therefore, the number of employees is one of the major factor that a manager can work on. Next is your task complexity. Now when I talk about this task complexity, it means that how the complex work task influences the subordinate. That means if the authoritative leader have very much well known to the task, it can be very easier for them to keep 10 to 15 or 20 to 25 people. But if the task is not complex, on the other hand, if the task is complex, they required at least only 2 to 5 people to manage them out. Next is the manager experience. Of course, if any manager has an experience of 5 to 6 years, then it is a high chance that they can tackle easily any sort of employee, n number of employees under them. But if I talk about that there is only one leader and who have been appointed for the past 1 or 2 years, they might not be that efficient to rule, they might not be that efficient to supervise the large number of employee under them. Now, when I talk about this span of control, there is actually the 2 types of span of control. First is wider level of span of control. Another one is the narrow level. Now, when I am talking about wider level, here it means that in this way it is being transferred. So, wider level basically means when the span of control is being transferred in this manner. Narrow span of control means in this way. Now, by looking upon these two structures, you can easily understand that in the wider level of span of control, one employee have to deal with 10 to 15. Here, one manager have only 2 employees. 2 employees have only 2 under them. Here, 1 under 2 under them. So, in this way, this is going to layer up the more levels of organization. But here, it is going to de-layer the levels of organization. Here, it's going to one employee. Here would be the one manager who is going to supervise among 10 to 15, and here would be one manager who is going to supervise 2 supervising 4. So, in this way it is being divided. In any organization, both are being there, wider level of span of control and narrow level of span of control. Now, challenges in maintaining this appropriate span of control. First is balancing the workload. Now, if I am talking about the wider span of control which I have explained you, it figures like this manner. One person have to tackle at least 7 to 8 people under them, which is quite a tedious task. Here, a person, you can see over here that it is very difficult for him to balance the workload, because the span of control can be challenging as managers may become overwhelmed with the excessive responsibilities. And these excessive responsibilities can lead to decrease in their efficiency, and when their efficiency gets decreases, it's quite easier for any organization to fall down. So, workload balance is always been necessary in organization. Second is communication breakdown. Now, this communication breakdown is a disadvantage of narrow span of control. How? See in this way. Here you can see that one employee under 2, 2 under 4, 4 into 8. So, in this way what you can see that employees are having a various level of, or I can say various layer of authoritative leaders position. So, in this way any communication that is transferred from top level management to the lower level of management, there could be hampering in the way information is needed to be transformed, and therefore it is the second most important. Third is your organizational changes. Any organizational is being changed in a different span of time, and these different span of time requires managers to adapt and realign their teams and maintain the optimal oversight. So, in total we can say that this principle of hierarchy and span of control are the fundamental principle of any organization, which shapes how a modern organization will work. There is no difference between either private organization or government organization, because they all run by this two major principle of hierarchy and span of control. Thank you.